My husband abandoned me when I was about to give birth and chose to be with his mother. Now he's livid because I made another man fill his role.
Last month, my wife called me in a frenzy telling me that her water broke and that she was going into labor. This was incredibly shocking to both of us because she was still early on in the pregnancy. The problem with this is that I was already on the road, about 30 minutes away tending to my mother, who had just called to tell me that she was in an accident. Not a significant one, but it still shook her up. I told my wife to call an ambulance because I would not be turning around to drive her to the hospital and witness her birth. She yelled, cursed, cried, and screamed at me through the phone while I tried to calm her by telling her to call my sister if she didn't want to call an ambulance since my sister only lives 20 to 25 minutes away. After this, she went silent and hung up and I didn't hear from her for about 1 hour and a half. I checked my phone for the first time since getting to my mother, and my sister sent me a video of my wife actively giving birth while holding her male friend's hand the way women squeeze their husband's hands for comfort during labor. My sister immediately followed up the video with a text that said, "When are you going to get here?" I ignored this text and asked her if she's the one who drove my wife to the hospital and she responded no. I asked her who did and she informed me that it was my wife's male friend, who lives only 10 minutes away, who drove her and was getting his hand squeezed by my wife. I ended up just asking my sister for the full story while I drove my mother back to her home since everything was sorted with the accident. Long story short, instead of calling my sister or an ambulance, my wife called her male friend that I've always unliked but never informed my wife. I told my sister to get on FaceTime with me, but not to make it obvious to anyone else in the delivery room, and I would stay silent on the other end. During the call, I saw my wife's friend rubbing her back, wiping her tears, comforting her when she screamed and cried, etc. I couldn't bear the sight and I ended the FaceTime and told my sister to inform my wife that I would be at the hospital the next day after work whenever she got out of labor. My sister called almost 2 hours later to tell me she left the hospital and that my wife would be staying the night. The next day around 3 to 4 p.m. when I went over to the hospital to see my wife and newborn son, she was not trying to hide her anger and saltiness from anyone in the room. That included mostly my family and some of hers. When I asked her why she was acting this way, she rolled her eyes and told me to leave her the F alone in front of everyone. Later when I tried to hold my son, she snatched him from my hands. In this hospital visiting hours ended at 8 but all of the guests excluding me left by 6. When we were alone I finally got the chance to have a conversation with her about why she was being so salty on a memorable day that should have been filled with love and joy. She responded by getting angry and mumbling something about my audacity to miss her birth and be surprised that she's angry. I'm not proud of this, but in response, I called her a cheater for inviting another man into the delivery room in place of her husband. This spiraled into a short full-blown argument between us that eventually ended when a NICU nurse came back with a baby. It's been a month since then and my wife only refers to our son as her son, her baby, etc. I've tried to get closer to her by sitting down and trying to have a deep conversation about our family's future, and she flat out told me that she was never having another child with me after what happened, which deeply hurt me. Last week I heard my wife on the phone talking about who would be godfathers and mothers to our son. She told whoever was on the other end that she would be choosing the male friend as godfather because he was there for me when Richard couldn't care less. This post is all over the place, but let me know if I overreacted in the argument when I saw her in the delivery room after she gave birth, or if anyone knows how to fix my marriage and family.
Update: 4 days later. I'm the wife from that post. A friend found it and sent it to me anyway. I decided to make an account to respond, clear some things up and tell my side of the story as briefly as I could. Yes, I did call my husband to tell him that my water broke and he did tell me that he wouldn't make it and to call an ambulance or his sister, who has called me a slur to my face before, so I don't know why he thought this would be a good idea lol. I did not call his sister because we don't get along and I have a friend that lives closer to us. He ends up driving me to the hospital and his sister pulls into the lot almost right after us. Don't know how she knew I was going. So now I'm in pain, scared, upset at my husband, and have someone I don't like with me during my most vulnerable moments. I was holding my male friend's hand because, why wouldn't I be? Now, it was very obvious that sister-in-law was recording me in some way because she was basically isolating herself from everyone else in the room with her phone to her chest and pointing at me. I didn't think that she was on FaceTime with anyone, I just thought she was filming me, which is equally as weird. I'm not sure why I brushed it off and or didn't ask about it when I was more stable. My husband did in fact show up the next day around 4 p.m. and tried to act like nothing happened, and I was very moody and rude to him, which was probably very immature of me. This later broke out into an argument after everyone left where he called me a cheater and I also said some very nasty things. I have been isolating me and my son away from him as much as I can and trying to be less dependent on him in some aspects. The reason for this is because I feel that I can't trust him to keep my son safe or change his diaper or pour my breast milk into a bottle and feed him, or burp him, or basically do anything for my son at all. I and my son are indeed financially dependent on my husband like he has stated before, and because of this fact I cannot divorce him, not now at least, because I do not have any support system or family that lives near us to help me and my son, and I am still in school. I know staying for the kids isn't healthy, but my family has recommended for me to stay for the sake of my schooling and my son's happiness. My husband had stated many times that he was apologized, but these quote apologies were just along the lines of "I'm sorry, will you stop being angry now?" No, I am not sleeping with the male friend. We've been friends since 2nd grade and there's never been anything romantic or intimate between us.